And we
All
are
right,
recording.
Thursday night member spotlight, and boy, this is going to be a lot of fun for me because I had said in my Facebook post that Ben's new to triathlon, and Ben is not new to triathlon. And so this is exactly why we do these member spotlights, is so we get to know members. And so I have been talking with Ben all season, thinking it was really his first season. And so this is going to be really exciting. We have Ben Lee tonight, and it's going to be exciting to hear his background and where he is and his goals. But before we get going, Ben, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bob Gamble, our co-host. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you back from wonderful Hawaii.
It was fun. Good trip.
And I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the official introduction.
And like John, I also thought that Ben was new, and he actually was new to the Tri Club. He joined in February of this year and did a couple of our club races. And I remember meeting you at the aqua bike out there at Lake Las Vegas. Is that right?
I think we first met at the event in April last year.
Okay,
Or
in April,
this
and that's where I thought you were new. Plus, I mean, you look like you're 12 years old, so I thought you were brand new. And that's another reason why I'm excited about having Ben on tonight and learning a little bit more about him. Is Ben is about to finish his doctorate in physical therapy,
Mhm.
and Lord knows me personally and a lot of other people in the club can use more physical therapists in the club. So yeah, we're real excited to have Ben in the club and talking with him tonight. And again, I just wanted to say that again, but Ben is in the UNRs or UNLVs
Oh,
UNLV.
physical.
UNLV.
That's what I
come
thought,
on.
because you came from Reno. You
I
just came
did.
from Reno. So
Yeah,
you're in UNLV's physical therapy program
that's
and
correct.
and about to graduate with your doctorate. And so that's, like I said, it's great to have you in the club, and great to have you in our area and racing. And Ben has done triathlons. I thought he was brand new, but he's done everything from sprints through Olympic and 70.3s, couple of 70.3s. And after taking some time off for this winter and the off season, he is getting ready to do an Ironman next year. You're going to be training for that. So welcome. Glad to have you here. And how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you guys reaching out to me and having me on for tonight. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to answer any questions you guys have.
And that's fine. Well, whenever you're in the physical therapy field, how does that translate into triathlon? Does that make you a wiser so you don't get injured as much, or does it help with your injuries, or
Yeah.
how does that field relate to triathlon?
So I've found through physical therapy just a lot of knowledge that I can supplement with like my training and recovery and kind of understanding like biomechanics of how we move and things like that. So it's actually really enhanced my experience in triathlon and made it more enjoyable, I think. From an injury perspective, I'm pretty cautious. I make sure, I'm not overtraining, not overreaching, things like that. So I think physical therapy has also added to that aspect in teaching me, how much can I actually handle, and if
Hmm.
things do go too far, what I can do to kind of remedy that. So
And I look forward to instilling some of that wisdom at your young age, on me and the rest of the club. Because I was actually waiting for John to jump in there and say, Bob, are you listening? He's not doing too much. He's not going too hard, and he's pacing
Bob,
himself.
a PT student can make a career off of you. So, yeah. Well, hey, Ben, I'm really interested in how you got started in triathlon. And then I am curious as to where the PT interest came out of, if there was anything related with triathlon. But when did you start triathlon?
yeah, so I started back in 2016, but I kind of started doing endurance stuff back in, I think, high school. Yeah, so my family used to tease me pretty often. I was a little overweight when I was younger, and I decided I'd had enough. I was gonna change my lifestyle, and we had a treadmill at home, so that's what I started with. I started with running on the treadmill. It'd be like 20 minutes a day, just nice and easy. It could have been walking, maybe some jogging, and then that came sophomore year of high school. I'd been swimming for most of my life, but not like competitively. Just every summer we'd just jump into the pool. But
Mhm.
I had swimming experience. So I joined the swim team and I did pretty well in swimming. And then junior year and senior year, I decided to run cross country and track. I got injured my senior year of cross country, and I was put on the spin bike for essentially the whole season. And so that's kind of what kickstarted my interest in physical therapy and also triathlon. It kind of happened.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You were swimming and running on the treadmill, and then cross country, and then they put you on a bike. So it's like they just spoon fed you right into triathlon.
Essentially, yeah. And so kind of from high school, my uncle talked me into doing physical therapy. He's like, hey, this might be something you're interested in. And I've kind of found with schooling that I'm not sure if I want to take the orthopedic route or if I actually want to work in the hospital with patients who are more complex with just what you have to do with them. So
yeah, which one are you leaning towards?
Right now, I mean, I'm not super experienced or had a lot of experience in different settings, but I'm leaning toward the hospital setting, like inpatient rehab. So patients with stroke, patients with trauma, spinal cord injuries, things like that. So
that's a noble endeavor.
Yep.
And a lot of people will just go for the glory of working with athletes, and so that's really, I admire that.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was your injury when in cross country?
Oh yeah, so I had a really bad IT band injury. Well, really bad because it kept me out the whole season, and I refused to go to physical therapy because as endurance athletes, we're very stubborn. We think we can get over our injuries on our own. And I actually went to physical therapy for one session. We didn't have insurance to pay for it, so it was a free session that my coach, they referred me to a local physical therapist, and the first session was free, gave me some stretches, and magically I got better after that. So
yeah, the magic of physical therapy.
Well, that's great. Okay, so now I'm interested in the swimming. So what events did you swim in high school?
So I first tried to qualify for regionals in backstroke. So I swam 2 years. I swam my sophomore and my junior year. I didn't qualify my first year for regionals, but my junior year I qualified for the butterfly for regionals, the 100-yard butterfly. So that was kind of the stroke I really enjoyed and liked to race in. I didn't make it to state, but made it to regional. So
that is a great swimming background, boy. Butterfly, that takes a lot of strength and technique, and that carries over well, I'm sure, to open water. Obviously you don't use butterfly, but just that confidence of swimming is great.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a good stroke. So
speaking of the butterfly and triathlon, I read something where there was a woman triathlete who had a background with all of the strokes, and she would actually use them all at one point or another in her triathlon. Have you ever broken outside of the crawl?
No, not necessarily. I think freestyle is definitely the most efficient for me. I mean, if you have a good swimming background and you're more efficient with butterfly or breaststroke, I'd say go for it, whatever.
Yeah, breaststroke to take a break.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to your first triathlon. So you get injured, you decide you want to study PT, but where did triathlon enter this?
Yeah, so freshman year of college, I actually sought out a tri club. I didn't know that we actually had one on campus, but my brother was doing ultimate frisbee at the time at UNR. Had an ultimate frisbee member tell him that there was a tri club on campus, and I reached out to her and I found out, yeah, there was not a super official one, but there was one. And so I got in contact with the coach and made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
awesome. So then how did you, so you got involved with them? Did you start off training with them, or did you just sign up and go to an event?
So the club actually met 4 days a week, and they trained all together. So we do Tuesday morning swims, Wednesday morning intervals for running, and then Thursday swim, Friday run, and biking was kind of on your own. So that kind of made it a little bit difficult, because I found that with triathlon, the cycling is definitely my weakest point. So I didn't have a strong background in the cycling, but the swimming and running I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Before we go any further, you're not the first person that we've interviewed who has mentioned that they've either met triathletes or got into triathlon through ultimate frisbee. Like there was a lot of folks have actually played ultimate frisbee, and many people don't even know what that is. So I'm just, is there a link between ultimate frisbee and triathlon?
Maybe there is. Ultimate frisbee is definitely super fun. So for those who don't know what it is, definitely check it out. And if you have a chance to play it, I'd highly recommend.
Yeah, it is fun. We might have to have an off-season ultimate frisbee challenge here.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So now you've got this club, you've got some friends around you. What was the first event?
So it was in Folsom, California, hosted by TBF Racing. It was the Icebreaker Triathlon at Folsom Lake in April of 2016.
Oh, so they call it Icebreaker Triathlon for a reason?
I think it was their first ever triathlon, I want to say, that the company hosted 15
Okay.
at the time, 15 years ago. So
Okay.
So it wasn't that the water was, like 39 degrees.
no, I don't think so. No.
What was the distance?
So I started off with a sprint. At the time I had like this really old bike that we got off Craigslist for $200. It had like a 650C in the front and a 700C wheel in the back. It was odd. Yeah, and the shifters were on the frame tube on the
Down
the
deep?
Oh, that's old,
yeah. So I had
real
one
old
of,
school.
and I wasn't comfortable shifting, holding onto my bike with just one hand, and I was clipped in.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, yeah, that race went pretty well, except my chain dropped. So I had to get off the bike and fix that. But the swim and the run went pretty well. It was my first open water swim competitively too. So that
Oh,
was,
wow.
Oh, you
that
had a
was,
lot of firsts.
yeah, yeah.
Well, talk us through it. So you obviously trained for it with the group, and they were all doing the same sprint distance, or were they doing other distances, or?
No, yeah, it was just the sprint race. So I don't
Okay.
think they had any other distance that day. But yeah, the training was good. It was nice to have, a team to train with. That's something I didn't have and I don't have right now actually that I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But our coach was good in that he tried to replicate open water swimming. We had a diving tank at UNR, so we would just practice swimming and sighting in there.
Got it. All right. So now you toe the start line, and are you towing the start line with your friends, or were you finding your own spot? And what were you thinking even?
Yeah, it was a little nerve wracking because it's the first time I was also in a wetsuit, and so I was
Mhm.
told like you might feel a little restricted, and the water was cold that day, and so there was a lot of factors playing in my head. It was kind of maybe I'll stick with everyone so I'm comfortable. But I mean, once you get in the water, it's kind of hard when you lose everyone, you just kind of go, and that's what I did. So
Mhm.
just went for it.
Yeah. And
Well, tell me, whenever you got started, most people, and I can, speaking for myself, just go out a little bit too hard in that first open water swim, especially, your wetsuit's a little bit restrictive, and, did you know enough to pace yourself? Or did you go out and realize, I need to back off a little bit, or tell me about your first swim.
Yeah, I don't know. They always say, the first like 100 or so yards, you want to sprint your way out. And I did that just to get positioning. And, it, I think I had to back off a little bit, but coming out of the swim, I felt okay because I was like, okay, I'm on land now. I'm done with my first ever open water swim. I feel better. Oh, I got really dizzy coming out of the water. I
Oh,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
there's a vertigo,
yeah,
it's
like a
hard to
vertigo
get your
effect.
balance.
Come out of cold water. I almost fell over.
Hmm.
But hasn't happened since. I think it was just that first initial time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely had to stop myself a little bit so
Mhm.
that I didn't overdo it on the swim.
Good.
That's that swimmer's mentality. It's hard to break out of, but that's
Yeah.
great. And and open water is different than swimming in a pool. So that's great to hear that the swim overall went well. All right, so you get out and you got out of your wetsuit okay, or?
Yeah, I think so. If I remember correctly, everyone was saying use Vaseline or Body Glide. I think I borrowed some Body Glide from someone.
No.
Yeah.
Got
That
my
on your
wetsuit.
ankles, it helps it come off a whole lot easier.
Yeah, yeah. And then the transition was probably a little rough, putting on the shoes and the helmet after
Mhm.
getting the wetsuit off. It's a little cold.
No.
So, but yeah, and then got on the course. The course was a little hilly. It was kind of rolling hills, like you'd have a big one and then a dip, kind of like that.
Mhm.
Was it kind of like the Boulder Beach
Yeah, probably
sprint course?
fairly similar to that course. Yeah. And so I think it was a 13-mile ride, dropped my chain halfway through, but got back on the bike, didn't fall. So that was a plus. And then I think at the time, I felt the strongest on my run.
Yeah.
And it was a 4-mile run instead of a 5K coming off that bike.
Oh,
And
interesting. Yeah.
fairly flat, and at sea level. So breathing was a little easier, I guess.
Mhm.
But Yeah, and so I felt really good on the run. I can't remember what my run time was for the 4 miles, but I think it was pretty fast compared to my swim and my bike, like
Well,
level.
what was it like? Had you practiced bricks before, running off of the bike? And so then
Uh-uh.
tell me, what was it like when you hopped off the bike and you took your first few steps?
Well, you feel pretty wobbly, and an issue I run into a lot is cramping off the bike when I get onto the run.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it didn't happen that time, but when I did my first Olympic distance, I was miserable coming off the bike. So
Yeah, you run the bike a whole lot longer.
But yeah, I love to hear that you did this on a $200 bike, and it sounds like an old, almost time trial-ish type of bike with a small front wheel. And
That's right.
did you use aero bars on that, or
nope, nope. It was just
There
what
were
it came.
cow horns,
I didn't even
right?
know what pro bars were at the time.
uh,
Were they
So
just the kind of bars that like point straight forward? Little, they look like cow horns.
I think so. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember. I got rid of that bike. So
great. All right, and so yeah, though now you run after that, and like Bob asked you, that's a tough part. But how long into the run did you start to feel like you had your run stride going?
probably after about a mile, I think is when I really hit my stride, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. It feels
Legs
good to
woke
run.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and so then you come into the finish, or did you see any of your club teammates along the way?
I can't remember.
Hmm.
But I do remember coming down the finish, and I had bought these cross country flats specifically for the race, and I was like, oh, these look so cool. My pictures are gonna come out great. Just run straight to the finish line, and yeah, no, it felt really good.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
So
So,
how'd you feel when you crossed? What was the feeling?
I was tired,
Yeah.
I- but it felt like an accomplishment, and it made me pretty like hungry for more. Like I was like, I think I could keep doing this because this is fun.
oh, I love it. So then, what did you have another club race coming up, or what was the next event?
Gosh, I can't remember. I think there was a sprint in Sacramento in October later that year that I did. That was I think it was part of the course was part of I Am California, swimming down the American River and going through Discovery Park. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
Maybe not, but
Mm-hmm.
And you
yeah,
say that was an Olympic or that was another sprint?
it was a sprint. It was another sprint. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think I did Olympics until the following year, I want to say.
And well, I'm not sure if John, if you're ready to move on to that, but I'm curious, when you went on to the Olympic, how did you change your training, and how did you learn how to train for the longer event?
It was definitely more biking. I wasn't super comfortable biking outside, so a lot of my biking was on a spin bike at the gym. Um, so yeah, I didn't go outside very often. I didn't practice bricks very much, and I think it was just increasing volume in training. I didn't really change my training too much because the club was fairly specific in what they did, and I just kind of
Huh.
went. So
Did you learn from them, from the like you gauged your workouts off of what the club was doing?
yeah, essentially, there were no individualized plans. Everyone just did the same thing. So.
Hmm. Were they all your age?
No, they were actually all older than me. The majority of them were actually, like 50 plus. And there
Hmm.
weren't too many of us, but I was one of the few actual college students. It's weird, yeah. Because everyone else who participated in the club worked at UNR. So
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, it
cool.
wasn't like a student run club. It was
Yep.
it was different for sure.
Hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so now as you exit UNR, what races did you start to target?
So my first 70.3 was Santa Cruz. It was the year where there was a lot of fog and they had to shorten the swim.
That's right.
That year, I had the best swim of my life for a half mile.
Oh,
I think the buoyancy of the water, and it wasn't choppy at all that day. It was really flat.
Wow.
Swam really well, and then went onto the bike. So I had a road bike at the time, had aero bars attached to it. I lost one of my aero bar pads on the drive down.
oh
Uh,
no.
so I made one out of tissues. I like clumped a ton of tissues, bought some super glue, and put it onto my aero bar. It didn't last very long, so I wasn't super comfortable in the aero position for most of the ride. But
Yeah, but you were resourceful. It's like that's one
yeah,
of the
I tried to be.
yeah, and part of triathlon is solving the problems that are inevitable. that
Yeah.
are going to come up. So that's I'm glad to hear that things, not only do they sometimes go bad, they usually, something happens you got to fix.
Right.
Good. That's smart.
Yeah. And so with the shortened swim, everyone was kind of clumped together for the bike. So there was a lot of drafting. And we had a tailwind. So we were flying. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to finish this bike so fast. Then we hit the turnaround point and it's a headwind the whole way. And suddenly I find myself on my own. And so I'm getting through the last half of the bike all by myself. And that was a struggle. Then finally made it back. It took about like 3 hours and 20 minutes or something. The first half was like an hour and 20. So it took me like 2 hours to get back. But I actually met this guy who I'd never met before, and he's from Reno, and he actually finished the bike at the same time I did. So we started running together, and he kind of carried me along the whole way. You know, it gave me a distraction. My legs were cramping really bad within the first mile. I did something you're not supposed to do. I took a hot shot. First time I ever did it during a race because I was desperate.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure.
What's a hot shot?
Yeah, it's like a cramp relieving, like nutrition supplement.
A spicy drink.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've learned that you're supposed to sip it instead of like just take a whole shot, which is what I did. I took the whole shot. My stomach was on fire, and I was like, I really hope I don't have to, stop and use the porta potty, which I didn't. But I think they helped with the cramps in the initial stages. And I was walking every aid station, making sure I wasn't pushing it too hard.
Yep.
And so I trudged through 11 miles with that guy from Reno. And then he's like, I'm going to go forward. And I was like, okay, just, go. I'll meet you at the finish line. I never saw him again, unfortunately.
Oh, that was nice of him.
Yeah, it was nice. He was also struggling too with some stomach pain. So we're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have someone to run with most of the way. So get to the finish line, turn the corner onto the beach. And I was like, I'm going to sprint. And so I sprinted. My legs were really, really unhappy the next few days from that sprint.
Because that is on the sand, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like running through quicksand.
Yeah.
Now that was your first 70.3 then.
Yep.
Wow.
And I trained on my own for that one. I didn't have a coach or anything. I kind of trained with and without the club for that race because no one else was participating from the club. So yeah, I mean, most of that training was on my own. And I felt pretty successful, but I think the cramping really held me back from my true potential.
That's great.
Did you figure that out? Your cramping? How have you dealt with that?
I think for me, it's just kind of volume of training is increasing the volume of training. I mean, because my legs just can't handle the stress from, the biking and the running combined like 4+ hours.
Are you changing your nutrition as well?
I tried
taking some electrolytes and some sugar.
Yeah, and I found that doesn't change too much. Specifically for me, I think it was just increasing volume and just being on my feet more.
Yeah, getting that durability. All right, so it sounds like the Santa Cruz race was a big success. I can't imagine what it was like though, standing on the shore and not being able to see the first buoy. I've heard stories of this, so I imagine that was stressful. But then you made it through the entire race successfully. And so when you finished, what did you start to think about doing next? Another 70.3, or where were you? Where was your mindset?
Yeah, so I was actually planning to do Santa Cruz 70.3 again the next year. It felt really good. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out the cramping, and I'm gonna run a full race without any issues. So I started training that whole year. I wasn't as consistent as I was the first time around, and then I had IT band issues about a month leading up to the race. So I decided I'm not gonna go for it. And so that was kind of when I really started to take a break from triathlon. I wasn't training very much. I was doing races here and there, but that's kind of when I stopped, like being very consistent with my training.
Well,
when was that? When was that again?
That was probably around the end of 2018 or 2017 or 2018.
Then you moved here in 2019?
Yep, June of 2019. And so I was also training. I participated in the Las Vegas Triathlon that year, but I didn't have like a very strong inconsistent training background going into it. I was kind of just dabbling here and there. And then 2020 comes around and COVID hits. And, I'm just like, wow, this is a lot different now.
Yeah.
A lot of indoor training on my own. So
Well,
And you,
I know the injuries have a way to pile up, and that can take a lot out of a season or what you want to do next. But I imagine at that point your sights are set on PT, and I think it's really neat that you're having these experiences as bad as it is, because that probably gives your PT training a little bit more meaning. So when did you feel like you said you took a break? When did you feel like you started getting back into it and starting to get in the drive to do another race?
yeah, I was always kind of motivated. It was just the training wasn't very consistent for me. But I think I signed up for St. George 70.3 in 2020.
Yeah.
So around I think October or November last year.
Hmm.
And I started training, and then we get these emails weekly about a guest who speaks about something about orthopedics. And luckily, I usually skip past those emails, but one night I checked and it said Ted Gerard has done 75 plus triathlons, and I was like, maybe this will be interesting. And so I stopped in. I listened to Ted talk about the gluteus medius a lot, and then I asked him, "Hey, are you coaching people?" And he said, "Yes. Email me and I'll get back to you." And so that's kind of where it really began to pick up for me again.
Oh, how cool.
yeah,
What a
glad to
great
hear it.
connection. Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so we're almost at our end here, but we haven't gotten to what you want to do next. So what are your sights set on at this point?
So I signed up for Oceanside 70.3 in San Diego. So that's the next race.
That's a good race.
There's a lot of people that are doing it, and I'm trying to get a deferment into that race, and if not, I'm just going to go ahead and register for it. So I'll go. We can work out together.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Good.
my first. Well, maybe not my first, but in 2022. So, and did you have anything else lined up, or is that it for 2022?
Yeah, I think I might also do Washington 70.3. We'll see, because I have some friends up there. So it'd be cool to stay with them and race up there. But other than Oceanside right now, no, I don't have my eyes set on anything. So
Well, you're going to do some club races. We're going to get those scheduled.
of course,
You'll do some club races. Do you like the BBSC races?
I do. Yeah, the BBSE ones are fun. I like the atmosphere, and they set up the race pretty well. So
Very good.
So which distance do you find yourself gravitating toward? You've done the sprints, the Olympics, and the 70.3s. I mean, which do you start to get most excited about training for?
I think definitely the 70.3s. I haven't done I haven't done a full Ironman before, so I'll be looking to do that at some point. But right now, I'm really liking the 70.3 distance. It's just I have just enough time to train well enough to do well at the race. So that's kind of what I'm enjoying right now.
Well,
So
tell me something, Ben. How do you compare the sprint to the 70.3, and why do you like 70.3s better?
oh, that's a good
Are the
question.
sprints hard, or are they just not long enough?
I don't know. I feel like any distance is an accomplishment in a triathlon, right? Like it's crazy, but I feel like I really just gravitate towards 70.3s because I enjoy the training for it more. I like the longer rides, the longer runs, and just gives me time to just relax and hang out, and not busting out intervals all the time.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Good answer.
I love it. So with your PT training and your triathlon experience, what would be some advice that you would go back and give yourself in starting in triathlon?
I think it's definitely just make sure you monitor your symptoms and making sure that, we as endurance athletes, we're very go-getter. We have a go-getter type of mentality, and we want to work as hard as we can, but you have to listen to your body and make sure that you pace yourself for the long term, if this is something you want to do for a long time.
Nice.
So
Wise beyond your years. And John is saying, Bob, are you hearing this?
That's right. This is great advice. Yeah,
That
no,
is.
and that's spot on.
Yeah.
Ben, this has been great to talk with you. I'm really impressed with the amount of experience that you have and the path that you took. And I really like, hearing the story of you getting involved with the Tri Club and doing that with friends and that $200 bike. I think it's a Nishiki bike that you probably had. So,
It was if you guys have heard of Terry, it was a woman specific bike because I'm a smaller person. So yeah, definitely an older brand.
yeah. Well, what I love about that is you started on, a bike that, $200 and you got into triathlon and now obviously you're not riding, you're riding something else now, but you can get started in the sport, relatively cheap. You don't need the high-end equipment just to get started and get the experience. So it's really a great story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good that you got you were working with what you had and then you kept going. And I also like the fact that you're parlaying this into your career of physical therapy. So that they're both gonna help each other.
And
Yeah.
can't wait to see you cross the stage in May. That's going to be excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm excited. So
Well, Ben, thanks for doing this. It's been great talking with you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
All right.
Again,
Have a nice evening.
thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good night. Thank you.